Good morning, YouTube. So it came to my attention last night, a post on David Cerrita's wall about March 22nd, which is tomorrow, and in alignment with the 188-day seismic cycle. Now, what's interesting is I like patterns, and the whole comet element caught my attention because of patterns. And it seems people have started to figure out these patterns more in terms of time and in space with ley lines and how things are lining up. And it's very curious. More curious from my own personal perspective is for over a month now I've been like, oh, this equinox is going to be a hairy one. I can feel it. I feel it in my bones. Things are heating up. Things are heating up a lot. And I want to share a little of my insight on how gravitational poles affect our planet, or specifically this alignment. So, during this alignment, which happens at 4:58 UTC, supposedly, and I haven't figured out the information for that specific alignment, but there's a heavy mass object, say Nibiru element, on the other side of the Earth, facing away from the sun. Early morning. I think I'll enjoy some green tea. And it's a new moon in less than 24 hours. So that means the moon's going to be very close to being between the sun and the Earth. If it's directly in front, it would be a solar eclipse, but it's not. And we just passed equinox, so the equator is very close to pointing toward the sun. So at 4:58 UTC, you figure out solar noon, the point at which the Earth is facing closest to the sun, which is right near the equator, as it exits the equinox. That happens to be just east of Singapore. And the moon is north of the equator a little bit, but it's being at the time of this alignment, it's a little west of the solar noon alignment. But there's also the point of the heavy mass object on the other side of the Earth. And the thing about, say with the tides, you have high tides where the moon is closest to the planet. So at that time, you're going to have high tide in Southeast Asia, but also on the opposite side of the planet, the eastern seaboard. And so the interesting thing, I'm going to take the camera. So we have the infamous Google Earth. Alright. So the area of focus is this area right here. So solar noon is around here on the equator. And as we're moving into summer, it's slightly above, not even a degree above the equator, as we just passed the equinox. It's ever so slight. But the moon is more aligned over here. Moon is more aligned over here, and solar noon here. So you have an averaging between these two areas. But there's also the alignment of the heavy mass object on the opposite side of the planet. So what I said is both sides are important, because think of how the moon affects tides, and you have the low tides perpendicular to these 2 points, this side and the opposing side of the planet. And so those sides are going to be most affected. Then you also have to consider the weakest link. And the weakest link, we look at the fault lines. And the closest fault line is here's the Java Trench. And so there's this area along here, and then over here. Now, the thing is, we're rotating this way. We're rotating to the west. And what's important about that is usually energy builds. It doesn't happen before. Just sort of like a full moon. The more dynamic things with the full moon happen on the full moon up to 3 days after. And a lot of celestial events happen after there's an alignment, because the energy is building, but then it's also degrading. But while it's degrading, there's all the energy built in the process. And while it's degrading, there's still energy that's building. There's just less building happening. So if you take the whole amount of energy being built in the process, I'm talking about like the acceleration. The acceleration is at the peak at this alignment, but then after that, there's still there's the acceleration is dropping, but there's still energy building. So more than likely, you're looking at an event along the Java Trench, right here. And it makes me think of, mythology, as I've been saying before, is that, oh, my plug fell out. There's a really low battery. That Indonesia will sink. So it's really interesting that little myth channeling has been popping around. Now the more interesting thing is on the exact opposite side of the planet, we have, what's its name? I can't remember. I'm going to search for it really quick. There's a volcano erupting in Ecuador right now, and it happens to be freeing on the exact opposite side of the planet, and that's really, really interesting. Alright, I got its name. It's called Tungurahua. There you go. Here's Tungurahua. Right there. You can see where it is. I'm going to zoom out. But it's below the equator, on the exact opposite side of the planet, exactly opposite Singapore. That's erupting. And so you have this geometrical equivalent of this volcano erupting, where this energetic anomaly will be. And so when this alignment happens around 1 a.m. Eastern time here, and so solar noon, that's going to be near also eastern seaboard, a little past on the on the coast. That's where we're exactly facing opposite the sun. But the focus point of, say, the heavy mass object Nibiru is going to be on this volcano. And so an interesting little connection with Singapore and the volcano. And it'll be interesting to see what happens. The whole September 26th date, nothing happened except we had the largest solar storm we've had in years. So it'll be interesting to see what pans out. It is the equinox. There is a new moon. It is 2012. Anything can happen. Anything. All cards are on the table. And it's just a moment, to put goodwill and hope and positivity and love and compassion in the universe and keep moving forward, but be mentally prepared for anything. Anything can happen. That's the gist of it. Well, there you go. And you guys, one thing I wanted to say is those alignments happen is, especially if they create resonance, you can amplify the gravitational pull on certain areas, actually pull the plates, and that can cause an earthquake. And also, there's the notion of how these gravitational pulls influence the growth of planets, as we've discovered through GPS and studying plate tectonics. It's not fully recognized in science, but is recognized in parts of science, that the Earth is growing. And how do these effects cause the Earth to grow, say, exponentially? And so that's what we could be also seeing as an exponential growth. Is, the Earth's going through a growth spurt. It's spring. We grow during spring. Outside grows during spring. The Earth grows during spring. I'd say that's the metaphor of the, as above, so below, of everything being connected. All right. Ciao.